Okay, I have cards and I may or may not use them, but you'll just have to live with them as my security blanket. Anyway, what I want to talk about, first slide, is millennials and boomers. This is like 150 million people in the population, and yet all 150 million gets stereotyped into these two groups. What? I'll get to them. I'll get to them. There are other generations. We all know. This is the definition of the generations. If you look at this, it's totally unscientific. It's not generally agreed upon. There's 18 years of boomers. There's 15 years of Gen X and millennials, and it was all made up. And what's it made up for? It's actually just marketing categories. This is not about science. This is about marketing categories. So, some pushback. You know, this is like, how do we feel about these things? Well, we don't feel too good about it. I like this, we're not zoo animals. A friend of mine said that in Minneapolis, and he's exactly right. At the same time, I'm quoting Billy Joel. Go look up the rest of those lyrics. What he's really saying is we are not responsible for everything just because we're the boomers. Because when he was saying that, let's see, it was 1989, boomers were being blamed for absolutely everything. So millennials, we feel your pain. There's always a relevant ex-KCD, right? And Randall Monroe is a millennial. And as he's saying here, and in his notes on this, you know, the click on the screen notes, he's saying, well, you know, I thought this would all be over with, but it's not. He forgets that 7 years before, he was criticizing boomers because the Christmas music he was listening to mostly came out in the 1950s. Actually, more than half of the boomers weren't even born yet. So it goes both ways. It's like, Randall, maybe you should see what you're doing. And of course, here is the all-time jerk millennial. Younger people are smarter, right, Mark? Zuckerberg, you know, I wonder if he thinks that now, but he actually said that. I mean, seriously, these people. So at the same time, there are all these articles criticizing millennials, though the last article I found in this quick scan blames boomers because we're the parents of millennials, okay? So it's all our fault. It's all our fault. It's, you know, whatever. Let's see if I can keep up with where am I in this. Okay, so we have to have memes, right? We have to have memes. So memes. So kids these days, oh, anyway, the millennials are generally better at shade than boomers, just so you know, because I kind of checked that, and it's like, oh, generally they do it better. But that's okay. This is at least an attempt to be slightly mildly funny as opposed to just negative. This one is kind of sweet. Somebody wanted to say, oh, we can learn from each other. And then down there at the bottom, yes, we can learn from each other. That we look to older generations for guidance and wisdom. Good luck with that. And ultimately teaching older generations about the truths of modernity. Maybe we could just all treat each other with respect and listen to lived experience. This marketing stuff started New York Times, 1956, merchants seek teens dollars, so all this stuff about boomers being consumerist and we were raised in all this. 1956, the oldest boomer was 10 years old. They're interviewing teenagers. This was the so-called silent generation, and they weren't. If you really want to understand the shift of consumer America, the affluent society, and if you want to know more about Galbraith's book, I'll be happy to explain that, that we shifted, our economy shifted away from being driven by necessities and about doing production better to most purchases being optional, which meant marketing. Marketing mattered because you had to be persuaded to buy stuff because you didn't need it. So here's you know, some of the marketing to millennials and boomers. Who are they? What do they want? What do they do? Marketing categories. This should not be used to characterize any single individual. But it is. Oh, and I had to put this one in here because I thought it was just so cute. Look how much is being done for millennials now. I have to say, millennials, you're going to live with this your whole life. Boomers have, and I'm kind of grateful to millennials because now it's like, okay, somebody else gets all this attention, which is just fine, because, you know, I have never felt typical. This one is one of the worst examples. This company took data from a lot of different sources and somehow smashed it together. And when you read the words that they have describing, if their client isn't a boomer, I would be stunned. I mean, this is ridiculous. They don't even give you the methodology of how do they survey people. What do you mean these are the typical words? So I went to Google searches, and I did Google searches on boomers like, boomers should, boomers want, boomers are. And the top one for boomers should is boomers should die. Okay, like, yeah, no. Okay, so then we go to millennial searches. We will go to millennial searches. And millennials should, if you get down to number 3, millennials should be given lethal injections. You know, these are marketing categories. What is all this hate? What is all this division? What the hell is wrong with people? Okay, so just a little bit of lighter criticism here that are kind of, okay, those are slightly funny, so we'll give them that. But slightly. I told you we had to have memes. I mean, okay, and sometimes they agree. Generational warfare is the dumbest internet trend ever, and that's saying something. And so they go through that. And then one of my friends said, this afternoon at the Minneapolis Planning Commission, I witnessed a beautiful thing. Young adults and retirees teaming up to fight for the future. Did you see it? And somebody then said, it happened in St. Paul, too. Okay, so, so the tweet was, conservative boomer, our country's full. Progressive boomer, our neighborhood's full. And the response was from somebody who's car free, I'm a boomer, I'm fighting for more housing in my neighborhood. Maybe you should chill. And the response was really sweet. That's awesome, not all boomers. So boomers and millennials can share their experiences, our strengths, our hopes, and now we just need to include Gen X.